Assistant Superintendent report. Beat that.
I was going to start with my report, will not be that.
We're going to talk about funds for the finances.
The table has bad people may not. And yes, my table is also slanted. So I have several financial reports for the month of June as well as fiscal year 19 as a whole. So on board book page 6, we will start with a monthly summary report. The total revenue for the month was $428,223, and of that, 41% came from general state aid, or which is now evidence-based funding, and 13% came from real estate taxes. The other category that comprised 29% of our revenue consisted of a variety of local fees, such as summer camps, summer school, pay to participate in athletics, course fees, technology fees, etc. The total expenditures for the month were just over $2 million, with 51% going towards salary and benefits and 29% going towards our debt payments of bond and interest. On the bottom of that sheet, you'll see the operating fund balances for the school year. So we finished the school year with a fund balance for our operating funds a little over $13 million. And this is after we were removing the restricted $2.95 million in working cash that has been reserved. And so what this means, we have, as a result, we have an operating fund balance as a percent of operating expenditures at the end of fiscal year 19 of roughly 52.54%. And this number means that without receiving any additional revenue, we can operate for roughly 52% of the school year. So that's why it's important to look at this number. We also have a board policy that says that we should keep it above 35%.
Kristen, on your page 6, you did highlight, so after 12 months, we finished with 101% of budget?
Yes, so I'll explain that more on the subsequent pages.
Okay.
Thank you for the improving the reports. I like it.
Thank you. So on page 7, this goes into our fund balances for fiscal year 19, as well as then the following 2 pages kind of provide an explanation of why. So page 7 are our fund balances, and you can see that we finished the year in our operating funds with a surplus of $530,310. And this is considering the working cash transfer of $50,000. Without considering that, we have a surplus of roughly $580,000. And anytime we do a working cash transfer, we always report out on both numbers, since we're transferring it from an operating fund to typically the capital projects fund.
Tom, that answers the question you submitted.
It does, but that comes out of the $3 million restricted fund?
Correct. That's
so
why
the restriction doesn't apply.
Right. The board originally budgeted $200,000 to do any kind of design, or if there was any preliminary studies. There was a talk about doing a traffic study with the zoo, and so we budgeted to withdraw $200,000. We only transferred $50,000 at first. So that's how you would get the $580,310 that you originally got.
And so when we move forward and we're talking about surpluses and deficits, we typically refer to the number without considering the working cash transfer. So that would be the 580. So this number is significantly higher than the deficit that was projected in the fiscal year 19 budget, which was without the working cash transfer, a deficit of $231,372. So the following 2 pages kind of explain why we came in significantly above where we were expecting. So on page 8 is a summary of our revenues, and you'll see when looking at their operating funds, as a whole, our revenue came in at 101% of our budget for our operating funds, and this is due to some interest on investment came in higher than we expected, corporate personal property replacement tax, evidence-based funding. We received funding for this year, and then we also had a payment for the previous year of $75,000 that we weren't expecting, and then also refunds on pooled liability insurance.
Is the debt service paid quarterly, monthly, or what's the frequency of that?
I'm not quite sure. I need to look into that.
So what was the total EBF?
Our initial EBF was 1.91, I believe, and then we had an additional 75.
Okay, awesome.
Looking at page 9, our expenditures, You can see our operating fund expenditures came in at 97.5%. And so in looking at why this came in significantly under budget, there were some changes to salary and benefits due to staffing changes after the budget had been created. Paid services came in significantly under budget. That's things such as LADSI, our special ed cooperative, legal services, food service, supplies and transportation also came in under budget. This isn't typical. Last year we did a historical analysis, and typically our expenditures come in at 99% of what we had budgeted. So that's, I think, one of the main reasons between that and obviously the little bit of revenue why we ended with a surplus in such a swing. Also, in board book underneath my report on page 10 is the report that's called the Statement of Revenues and Expenditures. It's for the month of June. And this report just provides some additional information for the board. It lists all the revenues and expenditures for the month by each line item, and you can compare it from the budget amount to the actual amount. This month is especially helpful since it provides the year-to-date amount. And then lastly, on board book page 40, there is a monthly student activity account summary, and this is also for June 2019. And with this report, it's important to keep in mind that as you're looking at the numbers, a negative account balance actually represents a positive fund balance. So that concludes my report. Are there any additional questions?
Good job, Kristen. Good first report.
Thank you.
Right. I get through this pretty fast today.
Yeah, thanks for
All right.
Thanks for jinxing us.